This FedGov Today program is sponsored by Maximus. On this edition of FedGov Today, the end of the fiscal year doesn't always mean spend it all.
As our CFO, Trevor Williams, says at almost every one of our board meetings, every dollar we don't spend is another dollar invested for our participants.
Jim Kaplan of the TSP on FedGov Today in just a moment. Uniting program strategy, advanced technology, process, and execution for a more efficient government. That's Maximus. Every program, every service, every time. That's innovation forward. Learn more at maximus.com/federal. The Thrift Savings Plan's automating a provision of the Secure Act 2.0. Before the automation, participants had to do some of the work themselves to follow the law. Jim Kaplan's Director of External Affairs at the TSP. Jim, what is Provision 603 in the Secure Act 2.0? Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, as always. So Secure Act 2.0 updated some of the provisions around retirement plans, and in specific, if you are making contributions up to the maximum amount allowed for your retirement accounts, and as you may know, once you reach 50, you can do what are called catch-up contributions. It's not catching up to the past. It's just helping you, if you weren't able to save in the past, make some additional contributions. Those increase when you reach 50 and increase even more when you reach 60. But what the law says now is when you make those catch-up contributions, you need to make them as Roth contributions. So they need to be taxed this year. You can't defer the tax. But that does mean that any growth and earnings on them will be untaxed in the future. So there's advantages and disadvantages to using a Roth plan. The nice thing is the TSP has now completed that every federal employee making contributions, it will automatically occur. There's nothing any of our participants have to do. If you and your payroll office will note when you've reached that $24,500 limit for this year, and everything above it, they will automatically send to a Roth contribution. If you don't have a Roth set up within the TSP at that point, one automatically be created for you. So there's nothing that our senior members who are making those catch-up contributions now need to do. We're going to take care of that for them and make sure that they're in compliance with this new law.
Is there anything you had to do infrastructure-wise to set that up? I imagine it was just a matter of making some modifications to the records management system.
It was both internally, but it also meant coordinating with the record keepers. And earlier this year, we had announced that, with the payroll offices. And earlier this year, we'd announced that there was one payroll office that was a little challenged and might have chosen not to proceed in that regards. But we're pleased to say and announce at our July board meeting that all of the payroll offices have now found a way to be in coordination with us and in compliance with the law and do it automatically and not require any participant to go back and make some proactive act on their side to set up the Roth payments. This is all going to happen inside the system. We've coordinated with the payroll offices. They've all worked with us to make sure that this is moving smoothly for our participants.
I imagine you and your colleagues can be very persuasive when it comes to matters of the law, Jim. You mentioned before we went on the air, Congress is already working on the Secure Act 3.0. Is there anything that you do in anticipation of what Congress could do, or do you wait and see until legislation is formalized to decide how you're going to proceed?
We do regularly engage with members of Congress and their staff about what issues might be coming up, what areas of concern they have. I work with our internal folks on any legislative changes we might need in order to implement one of our reforms or planned reforms for the future. So we do have an open engagement there back and forth. There's nothing specific on a 3.0. There's just been discussions at trade shows and at congressional remarks about thoughts they might have about auto IRA or expanding programs along the lines of what President Trump has done with the Trump accounts and making those more expansive to more people. Most of them don't directly impact the TSP or our participants and beneficiaries, but we're always watching pretty much every time new legislation dealing with retirement is introduced to make sure that we recognize and can assess how we would need to change and what that impact might have on our members.
Here's a number from the most recent board meeting that really stood out to me. $1.19 billion year-to-date rolled into the Thrift Savings Plan, year-to-date June 2026. And that number's big, and then the number that goes with it struck me too. 14% increase over year-to-date June 2025. Do you have some sense internally as to why that's happening, why the huge number of people are bringing money into the TSP that are doing so, Jim?
I'm not sure that we have hard stats yet on why people are doing it, but we know that there are advantages to using the TSP. We've said that for years. Our low fees, our basic systems, our ability to support our participant beneficiaries, and the high approval ratings we get from them are all show the strength of the system. It could be because of the increased use of the concierge system, and over 2/3 of the people who roll in use our system that helps them walk through the process and actually helps coordinate with their external record keeper to transfer those funds over from wherever their previous account was into the TSP has made it easy. It may be that all the discussions about retirement that have been expanded in the United States over the last year makes it seem like, hey, we see the TSP as being used as an example. It's a good one. Maybe we should be using more of that. It may just be the positive press that our conversations and other people have had, making people aware of the benefits of using the Thrift Savings Plan for their retirement plan. But we've made it as easy as possible for them to do so, and we're very pleased that they've placed their trust in us.
I will remind folks about a fact about which I'm very jealous, and that is that once someone is in the TSP, they don't have to move that money out. If you go to work, if you leave the government service and you go do something else, whatever you have in the TSP, you can keep it there, which is something I wish I could keep my money in the TSP.
It's not too late for you to enter federal service yet, Francis.
Yeah, I think it is. Jim. But thank you for the sentiment. I appreciate that. I also note some other numbers that don't bash me over the head as big as the other ones, but are also huge. $500 billion now under management in the C fund, $150 billion in the I fund, and $300 billion in the L fund. That's those are all-time record numbers, if I remember right.
That's correct. And we're pleased that, our participants, of course, direct where their money wants to go. That L fund adoption has really grown. Over 3 million of our accounts now are entirely in our L funds, which are our lifecycle target date funds that automatically pick and adjust as you age between the C, S, I, and the F and G funds. And so part of that is because people are using the L fund. It's the default for new people joining the system. Part of it is people seeing the benefit of a fix it or forget it system and choosing to go into the L funds. And of course, the growth in the markets in recent years means that anybody who's invested in the C fund itself just continues to grow. Even as we see more retirees taking out funds to spend during their retirement and help them retire with dignity, and maybe not as many new federal employees coming in, the growth in the market means that overall the growth of those funds is continued and will continue to benefit our participants well into the future.
You talked at the most recent board meeting about, I see here 10 audits that are either completed or underway for fiscal 2026. And except for the individual auditors conducting those audits, I don't believe that audits are probably too terribly exciting to the average participant in the Thrift Savings Plan. But the fact that there are 10 in front of me here speaks to the idea you're constantly undergoing audit of some sort from all different facets of operation. How many audits do you undertake on an annual basis, Jim?
So those 10 are our external audits, and those are how many we do every year. And we have 3 different auditors, including the Federal Department of Labor's auditors under the EBSA agency, to come in and review our activities. We have private firms that come in and do our FSMA and our financial statement audits to make sure that we are being the good taxpayer stewards of the taxpayer dollars and of our participant dollars that we want to be. We also have an internal audit team. It's a full-time team that look at other topics every year that they discuss directly with the board. They do not go through our senior leadership. Our internal auditor has private meetings directly with the board on a regular basis to talk about topics they want to see reviewed, and then reports back to them on the outcomes of those. So we are always looking at how we can improve our process. And we're really pleased. A couple of things. One, of course, is that our FSMA audits have been 5 by 5 the last couple of years, right? That we make sure that cybersecurity is a top priority in this day and age when we're protecting the accounts of our participants and beneficiaries, but also that we are seeing fewer and fewer recommendations every year, and therefore they're more and more easily for us to address the remaining issues that do come up, right? We've fixed long-standing issues. We've set processes in place so that they don't reoccur, and really have improved our processes to constantly be focused on constant improvement, which is part of our ongoing theme of our strategic plan.
How much of that eliminating or dealing with recommendations had to do with the transition to the converged system? Because when I talked to your predecessor, Kim Weaver, we would talk about this many recommendations and this many dispensed with and this many new ones. And she said a lot of those are going to take care of themselves when the converged system comes in. Has that proven to be the case?
Oh, absolutely. If you look back at the years of the transition, and we recognize there were challenges there that we've worked to address, and we had over 200 recommendations from our external auditors each year during that transition. That number halved in 23 to just about 115, and then it's gone down each year since then to 90 in 24 and 77 in 25, and we continue to see that progress and expect it to be even smaller in 26. So we recognize there were some bugs that had to be worked out. We're pleased with the improvements we've made through that process and with the suggestions made. We also had an audit done after that by the General Accountability Office, directed by Congress. We have closed this year every single one of the audit recommendations made in that GAO review. Those are all resolved. And we have made really a lot of great progress under our CFO's office, under our Office of Participant Experience that oversees the record keeper, and our Office of Program and Risk. They're all focused on making sure that we address those issues and that they don't come back, that these are not recurring issues, that we learn from our mistakes and we're constantly improving.
As we speak, Jim, we're about a third of the way into Q4 of fiscal year 2026. And I read that out of your spend target for your budget for fiscal 26, $457 million, you've committed $415 so far. My recollection is that the TSP budgets a certain amount each year, as every agency does, but you don't always hit the whole budget, and you don't spend it out like an appropriated agency would. What's the status of that, and what does that look like between now and September 30 in your view?
That's correct. As our CFO, Trevor Williams, says at almost every one of our board meetings, every dollar we don't spend is another dollar invested for our participants. Unlike many agencies, all of our expenses for managing the funds, managing the record-keeping system, and for our staff and facilities are all paid for by fees from our participants. And those fees are still 1/20th of what you pay in the private sector. These are some of the lowest fees, lower than 99% of any other option out there. But we have a fiduciary responsibility to our participants. If we don't need to spend a dollar, we don't spend a dollar. That means we don't take it out of people's accounts. That means it's reinvested for them to help them retire with dignity. And so our CFO, our audit teams, and every one of the offices, we are all incentivized really to come in under our budget, but to make sure that we use the resources we do have to accomplish our goal and mission. And we're very focused on that. And I'm very proud to be part of a team where we don't spend our budget, and there's no penalty for not spending your budget. In fact, there's praise when we are saving money for our participants and beneficiaries.
I understand and appreciate why you've never invited me to lunch, Jim.
I'm happy to invite you to lunch sometime. It's just going to be on my penny, not on the government's.
I don't want to spend your money for my food, my friend. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
A pleasure to join you. Thank you so much.
You can read more on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. The next FedGov Today podcast comes next week. I'm Francis Rose. I'll talk to you then. Thanks for listening.